This is Bo, and I wanted to do a quick walkthrough of how to create a product page profile using the Magezon Single Product Page Builder that I've been using on my regular site. It has entirely changed the way that we do the development for the website. Everything is much faster now, and we have a lot more control over the front end without having to do a tremendous amount of recoding on the back end. So what I want to try and do here is recreate this product page using the Magezon product page builder. I want to do everything below the bread marks and above the newsletter line here. Those are handled by other things, but everything in between here is what you would consider your product page. Now we have I have a system that I have built. It's just a default Magento 2.3.2 open source edition site. Pretty much no customization other than adding the extension, and went ahead and added a few products just so we can try and recreate what's on this page. Set most of the options in there, and added a few product attributes that you would probably find on most kitchen appliances, like wattage, the shape of the device, things of that nature. Um, you can see if we search for that waffle iron that I created, the default page isn't too different from what we've got over here, but there are some subtle differences. So uh, we're going to create something similar to this. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to click on Catalog, Product Page Builder Profiles. We're going to add a new profile. We're going to set it to full width simply because they have a section here of a colored background that is full width. And I'm going to give it a name of kitchen appliance. Probably misspelled that, but that's fine. And I'm going to save that. And I am going to go ahead and get started. At the top, we'll add the section with the product gallery and the product information. So we're going to add a row with 2 columns. Now, if you look on their page, they have a lot of white space to the right and left of that. So we are going to set the row width here to 1280. And I'm going to tell it to center the columns within that. So you see we have some white space to the right and to the left there. Now I'm going to click the plus, and I'm going to add the product gallery. Only customization that I want to do here is get those thumbnails on the left side of that image. So I am going to set the navigation position to the left, and I'm going to say save. Now on the right, we're going to begin adding all of the other information. So we're going to start by adding the product SKU, and I'm going to hover underneath that, click the small plus, and I'm going to add the product name. You see that I could do a lot of formatting here, but I'm going to hold off on that for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and add the reviews. And underneath that, we will add the price. And a stock status indicator. And underneath that, we are going to want a add to cart button. And then we're going to want a short description. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, on the actual product settings, if you scroll down to the content section, you'll see you have a description field, a short description field. The short description field is typically what you'll have out here to the right of your product gallery. And then the full description field would be something that you would have further down in the document. So we've added the product short description field there. They also have underneath their short description a little link. So we are going to add a text block. And I'm going to say view full details. And I'm going to make that a link to an anchor point in the document that we'll add later. So when they click on it, they'll go down to that section of the page. I'm going to save that. And over here, we need to add some social buttons to the bottom. So the default Magento social media buttons are going to be different than what they've got here, but you could always customize those later or use another widget to create that. So now we want to create the section underneath that, which is a full width with a light gray background that I think is F2, F2, F2 for the hex color code, some text, and then some related products. So I am going to add a full width row. I'm going to go to the row settings. I am going to come down here and set the background to F2, 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 and I'm going to save that. And inside of that, I want to add another row. We want the full width row to get the background all the way across, but we want the content inside of that to be pretty much the same width that we've got on the other information there. So we're going to set that to 1280. And just to leave a little gap there in that background color, I'm going to put a margin there of 3232, and I'm going to tell it to center the information inside of that. So again, you can see we have some white space out on the left and some on the right. I'm going to add a text block there, and the text block is frequently bought together. So I am going to center that inside of that column. You'll notice that I didn't do any formatting on that. We'll come back to all of that later. Right now we're just trying to get the content on the page. Underneath that, I'm going to add a related products, because on the waffle iron that I added, I have some related products already set. So we want to display those the same way they're displaying the information here. So just to make things appear the way that I want them to, I'm going to go ahead and tell it not to put more than 4 related products on a line. I want to go ahead and set the background color to white. For the product options, I want the name, the price, the image, and an add to cart. So we're going to get rid of these. I'm going to add a background color for each of those products as white. And probably want a little bit of padding on there. We'll go ahead and set that to 32. And I want this to be centered, although I don't think that's necessary. I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. So we have now quite a bit of the information that's on this page already added. Formatting's just not going to be exactly what we want. Oh, I did forget something. Under related products, we want to turn off the default theme layout, because the default theme layout is going to be overridden by the Luma theme if we don't do that. I do not want that text there either, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to save this page that we created, and now I'm going to click Preview. I'm going to come down here to our square waffle maker. I'm going to see what it looks like. So we have our product image, our thumbnails on the left. We can go ahead and slide through those. We have our SKU, product name, little review, the price. I don't know what that is, but we'll take care of that with CSS. There's probably a default bottom line border bottom on that. We have the in stock. We have the add to cart, although they're not on the same line, the quantity and the add to cart button. And we have our short description, and we have our products, the related products here. So obviously we need to do some formatting work on to clean everything up, make it look the way that we want, but we're already pretty close with just a few minutes worth of work. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section, which is a set of tabs. Now, you'll notice that they have the color background on the tabs. They have a little right, or I guess a 90-degree chevron, and they have the text color set to that dark purple that they're using on this document. And the background color for the tabs is that same F2, 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 but the active tab is white. I don't know what that little outline is, if that's something from my browser or something that they did on purpose, but we'll get that. Oh, yeah, they have a couple of buttons here as well. All right, so let's come back over here. Close that little preview window that we opened. And I'm going to add another row. This one we want to be 1280 again. I also want a little bit of room between it and what we've created before. And let me try it without that. We'll leave that the way it is. So, so we have a row, and it's centered inside of a 1280 box. Let's add the tabs to that. So on the tab, we have, by default, the actual tabs are up at the top. And that is controlled by the position, the tab position. So I want that on the left. And I also wanted some space between those tabs there. So I'm going to set that spacing to, I believe, 10. And the font size is fairly large on that. So let's go ahead and set the font size to 24. I guess let's go ahead and let's set the text color and everything now. So I want to get that color that they're using there. So they are using that right there. So if you don't know what I did there, I right-clicked on an element, hit inspect, and then on the right it shows me the CSS that's for that element. And you can actually scroll up and down this list and get the CSS settings for just about anything. So let's come back over here. We'll set our text color to that. This is our normal unselected tab, and we want that to be have a background color the same as the block above it. So we're setting that to F2, F2, F2. And if it has a border, we want to go ahead and set that the same. The content background color I want to be white, but honestly I do not want it to fill that content area with anything, and I want the default active tab to be 1 there. If we didn't want any of those, we could change that down here, but I believe that the gap is the space between the tab and the content of the tab, but we'll look at that a little bit later. So let's save that. See how we have a little bit more white space there. If I change that to, let's just say 40, and if we save that, do we still have this open over here? Yes, we do. You see we have a huge space between there. So we're going to come back over here. Now if you notice, you have 2 tabs up at the top. The first one is the tab as a whole, the tab element. You're making changes to that tab element. The second one is for the tab that you currently have clicked. If I click this, and if I go to this one, I'm working on that second tab. If I click this, and I go to the second tab, I'm making changes to the content for that first tab. So let's go back over here to the tab items, and let's set that to 10. And I'm going to go ahead just to see how that works, and I'm going to set that to, excuse me, 24 pixels. Now out here on this one, we want to go ahead and add, or we want to give it a name first. So we're going to call this description. And for the content, we're going to add just the product description. And I'm going to save this real quick and take a look at my preview. There it is. So looks like I did not set the background color for the active tab. So let's come down here, go back to the first tab, tab item. Let me save this again because we don't want the text color to change. But let's set the background color to white and the border color to white. And let me see here. I'm going to save that. Do a quick refresh. And yes, you can see that I have my tab set the way that I want it. Okay, so I'm also going to create that element ID, because you remember we created a link to a anchor point earlier. So view full details. And I think I forgot to add the, oh, let me think here, the icon. There it is. We want to add an icon. Let's scroll down the list there and let's select that little chevron. We want that on the right. I'm going to save that. There it is. We're going to have to follow up on that to get it the way that we want here. You'll see by default the position is going to be right after that text. So if we put one here, well, then the icon would be here instead of being lined up on the right like all of these are. But we can fix that with CSS. And let's see. You can see now that we have our tab with a white background, small chevron to the right, the product description on the right, and all of that has a white background. Let's go back to the second tab, and I'm going to add that icon as well. I'm going to put it on the right. And I'm going to do something different out here. They have something that's just text about their delivery, but I want to show you how to access and display some of the product attributes. So we're going to add a text block, and let's get rid of that. And in this text block, we're going to add a table. Let's go ahead and just make it pretty big. And drag that out here just so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and add the attribute information. So the product attributes that are in the system for this, let's look at this. Oh, those are the related products. That is this information that I've added here. I've added a drop down for the shape of the waffle iron. What's the voltage input on the electrical connection? How long is the cord? What type of connectors on the end of the cord? other various information that you might see on a standard kitchen appliance spec sheet. None of this is real information, but it's just to show you what we can do here. You'll see that we have drop downs, we have text box, and then we have some Booleans, yes or no entries. So I want to put that information in this table. So I can use this profile for multiple products. It'll always pull that information from whatever product is being selected. So I'm going to put the manufacturer, and I'm going to put the color and the material, the appliance shape, and just to show you how this works over here. So the manufacturer is a drop down. So in a drop down, you have the item that's been selected, and then you have that value. So what we want is that text value of whatever has been selected. So out here, we're going to put 2 curly brackets, then a var product, because it's a product attribute, get attribute text, and open parentheses, the name of that attribute, and then the close curly brackets. And on the color, we essentially have the same thing there. Let's go ahead and add one called chord length, because the chord length is just a text field. So on the chord length, I'm going to just straight up ask it for the text value of that chord length. So there, I don't have to do the get attribute text, open parentheses, close parentheses. I just say var product dot and the name of the attribute. Real quick, I'm going to go ahead and, well, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to make those bold, and then I'm going to save this, just so you can see what happens here. Let's go back over to the preview for that. If we scroll down here to that second tab, there you go. It pulled the value that we had selected for those attributes. I didn't put any information here, but it's displaying it there. And we have full control over how that's displayed now. We don't have to use the default waffle maker style, which is what we saw down here under more information. We can go ahead and do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you had the full Magezon product builder extension, not just the page builder extension, you'd have a lot more elements that you could then use to manipulate how those are displayed as well. But for now, we're going to go ahead and fill out the rest of this information, which I already have. So I'm going to cheat here just to make this a little quicker. And I'm going to paste that. And you can see here that I've got all of those attributes that I had created before. And I'm going to save this. And I'm going to rename that tab over there to, we'll say specifications. All right, now I want some more tabs down here. So easiest way I've found, since I did some formatting on the way that tab looks, is to go ahead and just copy the tab. So I'm going to hover up here to tab. I'm going to say duplicate. Now I have another one. I'm going to remove this block because I don't need that information. And I'm going to edit the name of this. I'm going to call this reviews. And out to the right here, I want to show the full reviews. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to do one more here. I'm going to say tab, duplicate. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get rid of the reviews. I'm going to rename this to questions. And I'm going to add a Magento widget. So I'm going to select widget. The widget type is I want a CMS block. There's a CMS block that's added by default on the template that comes with it. And I'm going to select that block, contact us. I'm going to say save. And I'm going to save that. And we can go ahead and just refresh this preview window that we've got there. So you see we have those chevrons doing what I told you earlier, but the content is there. So we're going to see all of our specifications. We're going to see our reviews that are already in the system. And that question is pulling information out of a widget or block that's already in the system. We could go one step further, and if you have some kind of custom block that you're not going to be able to find using that little widget. So, oops, I duplicated the wrong one. Let me go ahead and remove that tab. So select that tab, duplicate that, and let's remove that widget. Let's rename this to contacts. And what I want to do out here is basically insert the actual Magento block information into a text block. So you would have to get this code on your own from whatever block you're trying to insert that you weren't able to find under the widget selector. In this case, it's just going to pull up that default Magento contact block. I'm going to save this. We'll go back over to our preview window. We have a new tab, and there's that block. I guess it by default adds a lot of spacing to the left. I'm not going to worry about that. I was just trying to show you how you could put the information from those various widgets into the system. So now if we look at this, we're pretty close to what we have over here. The only difference is little bits of formatting, and some of this I'll do through CSS. Oh, they had a couple of buttons there. Some of this I'll do through CSS, and some of it I'll do through the elements on their own. So let's come back over here. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and create a few CSS classes for things that I can't change here. You see, I can't really change the text style or anything of that SKU, so I'm going to create a CSS class, and I'm going to call it SKU text. And then once we have created or set up the CSS that we want for that, it'll be displayed automatically. What about product name? Let's see. Product name, we do have the ability to do some styling here. Probably want to set that to H2. I don't know if I want to do this here or not. Let's see, what was the CSS color that we were getting there? I guess I could always select that, but if I select that, it's not going to be the exact same thing on everything here. So I'm just going to enter that. Font size, let's just say 24 pixels. And font weight, what do we want to say, 900? Actually, let's make that a little bit bigger. Let's say 28. And I'll say OK. We'll save that. Oh, I didn't finish what I started to do. We had created something called skew text. No, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and skip that. I think that text was pretty standard there. So let's go ahead and look at our product description. So the product description here seems like it's a slightly different color. I don't have a lot of formatting options here, so I'm going to call this appliance description text. All right, so let's go ahead and add something called appliance description text here. And if you missed that, I clicked on the little gear icon, and this is where you would add custom classes. So I'm going to create a custom class here where I'm setting the color, the font size, and the font weight. Now, anything that has this CSS class applied to it for the element type should show up with that font color, font size, and font weight. I am going to, let me think here, let's just save this. Let's refresh. There we are. So the text is close to what they've got over here, although they're using a different font, and that's fine. We still have the text for the dollar that's not quite right. We don't have the color of those stars exactly the way we want them. We need a little check mark to the left of that, and we need these to be on the same line. So let's start with the first one. We'll start with the review summary. And on the review summary, we're going to want to give it a CSS class name. Or actually, no. Let's take a look here. If we right-click on this, inspect, it looks like there might already be a CSS class that we could apply to it. I wonder if we say no, it doesn't do that. So let me see what CSS text I had done before for this. No, let's just go ahead and look at the CSS. So we have, let's concentrate on that label there. We have, oh, let me refresh that page. We should see something that's got an, oh, there it is. See that orange color? We want to change that to, sure, that's close enough. So what we want to do here is copy this entire class and since that's the only rating summary on the page, I'm going to apply this to that. And I don't want to change anything on there other than the color. So let's save that. And let's refresh this page. And there, the color's sticking. Not exactly the same. They're more of a mustard yellow, but that's close enough. But that's an example of why I prefer to enter the CSS manually as opposed to using the color pickers. I can never get it quite right using the color picker. Maybe you'll have a little more success with that. Okay, so we have the SKU, the name, and the summary the way that we want them. We want the price. Is there anything that we need to do on the price? Maybe give it that same color. You know what? I'm going to have a lot of stuff with that color there. The size seems close to that one. Let me see if I can make any. No, you cannot here. So let's go ahead and add something called product price. It's probably in H2, although I guess it could be a H3, so let's make it for both of them. And we're going to set the color to that same color that we used. And let's set the font weight to 700. And how about the font size? Set it to 24. Let's close that. And I'm going to save that. Refresh. Oh, well, I guess we did not get the exact element that we were looking at. So, oh, no, it's because I did not apply it. So we created the CSS class. We didn't apply it to the element. So I'm going to come down here, scroll down, and apply it. Well, I guess not. So what am I missing here? It's a product price wrapper. I guess there is something that is doing that. They're setting the price there based off of our viewport width, and that's overriding this. If I set this to that, does it override it? Yes, it does. So we probably want that to 28. And we want that to 700. And we wanted the color to be 0F273C. Maybe make that a little bigger. Why does it seem like that's dramatically smaller than the other? Well, we'll worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this whole CSS here. Let's go back over here, scroll to the bottom there and just paste that just for my own giggles. I wonder if I can just do this. Important. Set that for all of them, and just to make sure that I know it's actually working, I'm going to make it huge. this? It is. All right. Come back down here. We'll set that to, I think, what we said before, which was 30. I want to go ahead and maybe change that. Let's change the name of that to product text, because I want that name to be larger as well. And I don't want to have 50 million names here. So, all right, so for that, let's see what happens if we do that. Nope. What did I do wrong? I called it product text. I had it set to product text there. Oh, well, I think I actually did it. I just think it's not huge. Yes, okay. So let's go to the product name. We want to use this same class, but we want to use it for H2 as well. And I'm going to drop that down to 32 pics. I used H2 because that is set to H2. Save this. Refresh that, and everything's a little bigger. All right, so we have the SKU, the product name, the reviews, the price, looking the way we want. Let's go ahead and add that little icon there before the stock status, because right now it's just pretty bland. It just says in stock. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to give this a name just called stock status, and let's see what the CSS element is there. The CSS element is stock available, it looks like. Okay, stock dash available. All right, so let's come over here and let's go ahead and add an icon before that CSS element there. So we assigned a CSS class. We assigned it to the stock available element that's already there. And we said before this, we're going to add this icon. This is Font Awesome 5 free, which will be installed by default, either with Magento or with the Magezon product. We're going to set the font weight to 900. We're going to make it to this, which is a checkbox with a circle around the outside. Add a little space around it. We're going to set it to 18 pixels, and we're going to make it color green. And I'm going to save that. And if we refresh, there it is. We have that little green check mark, just like they have it. The wording is all capitalized. I think there's something that we can do with JavaScript to change that, but not with the single product page builder. I don't know if we can do that with CSS or not, but I need to move this up here onto this line. That is a quick change of the CSS. So what we need to do is the add to cart field. We're going to have to look over here and get the CSS for the add to cart field, which I've already looked up. But to get it, you're going to right click on this element, go to inspect, and you'll be able to find all of the add to cart elements right over here. So I'm going to add the CSS to override the default here. And what we've got is we're going to tell the quantity element to float to the left, and I don't remember what this one did exactly, but for the input we're going to set the height and width and everything so it can all fit on the same line, and we're going to save that. And if I do a refresh, bam, all in the same line. I don't have the little fancy plus and minus out to the right and left, but you can do those by default with just your up and down. If we wanted to get those, I think that we could add those programmatically, but we'll leave that for now. So we need to change the color. You notice how on this they have a hover color. It's green, and then it goes to a dark green. We already set up a green for that, so we're going to look over here at this CSS, and it's an action, so we're going to change the action primary color. So let's come back over here. Let's go to the add to cart. Let's add to cart color, and we want to scroll down. We're going to do add to cart color, and this is for action primary. We want to set the background to the same as we did for that icon. So we'll set that. Just to make sure, we'll say border the same, and I want to make sure that the text is white. And we're going to duplicate this for the hover. So we're going to go to the right of primary and enter hover, and we want that background color to be a little darker, so I'm going to use this, which is a slightly darker green. So we're saying the primary color for that action button is that light green, and if you hover, then it'll change the background color to a darker green. Save. If we refresh, there it is. We have that light green, dark green, light green, dark green. Very simple to do. Now this link, probably need to make it a little bit larger, but we already assigned an anchor here, so if I click it, it shoots down there. That's what we want to happen, but I want this text to be a little bit bigger. So instead of doing that through CSS, let's just go ahead and make it a little bigger here. We'll say 18. If you want to get the little chevron to the right of that, you can do what we did for the little green check mark and just add an icon to the right of that element. I'm going to skip that, go on to the next. We need to change this text. Now, I do not want to change that text using the tiny MCE editor that's in here, because we only have one level of bold, and the color can only be done through a color picker. If I save it here, it won't save it on the other ones. I wouldn't get it exactly the same. So what I want to do here, we've already created a CSS element that we used for product name and for the price. So I'm going to use that element called product text, and I'm going to take that CSS class, assign it there, but this is a paragraph element currently. If I want to use that, we currently have it for the price and for H2. So I'm going to set that to H2. I'm going to save that. And if I refresh this, much bigger. So very easy. We now have the size of all three of those elements standardized throughout the document. They're the same color, all the same CSS for those three elements. We could do that for the rest of the text on this document, but I'm going to leave it the way it is for now. Just so you see what's going on. So, all right, so what we need now is we need to do a little chevron on the right, and we need to add a couple of buttons to the bottom here. So let's do the chevron on the right first. So if we look at this element, we can see that this is a font awesome. These are going to be font awesome left, font awesome right, bottom. You know, these are the elements right here that we want to change. If let me scroll down here. If I came right here and if I said float right, then you'll see all of those things lined up in a line right there. But we probably want some padding if we did that. So we would go ahead and let's say margin right, or no, I'm sorry, margin left 20 pixels. There we go. And now you'll notice that this element is at the top. It's not quite on the same line there, so I want to go ahead and say margin top, let's say 12 pixels. It's a little too much. Let's just hit the down arrow until we get it where we want. That looks just about right. It's hard to tell between the 7 and 8. I'm going to leave it at 8. Okay, so now I'm going to select this whole element here. And I'm going to come back over here to our CSS classes. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. And the only thing that we changed was that. So we're telling the element to float to the right, to add a little bit of space to the left, add a little bit of space to the top. And I'm going to save that. Go back to our preview window, refresh that, and we've got it. So just like over here, we have a white background. Well, they've got a little bit of a CSS animation on that. We'll leave that alone for now. But they have the chevron out to the right. They have the F2, F2, F2 on the background for the inactive tabs and white background for the active tab. And we essentially have the same thing here. You could play around with the CSS a little bit if you wanted to get it exactly the way you wanted. They've got a little bit of extra space on top, bottom here, and a little bit of CSS animation for those things, but we're just going to go ahead and say that's done. We've got, we're using some attributes in here. We're pulling in Magento widgets and blocks, and we've got that all in some tabs with a little bit of room between the tabs. Looks nice. We have our related products, and the related products probably want to increase the size of that text a little. Let's see here. Yes, we do. We want to increase that. Let's see if we have that ability in the options here. No. Do not see that. Okay, so we could go ahead and just say, we'll call it related text. I'm going to save that. We're going to come up here and we're going to add a new class called related text. But this is what? This is a link. Yeah. And this is price. Well, that's interesting. So this is scroll down here just so I can make sure I'm focusing on the right thing. So product item name. Let's see if we can do that. So we've got price and product item name. Let's go ahead and add price, and let's just do a quick change there. It should be pretty evident if that worked. Oh yeah, that's it. So we obviously don't want it that size. That was just an easy way for me to tell that I was picking the right one. So let's say maybe 18, and we'll set the font weight to 700, and let's set the color to that same dark purple that we used elsewhere. All right. So these probably need to be that same color. Yes, it does. So let me right click on these. And these are to cart. Oh, it's action primary, just like what we'd done before, but they're kind of faded out there. Okay, well, I guess it's that simple. So we're going to check action primary. We're going to assign that to the CSS element that we've already assigned down here to that. So let's scroll to the bottom, and we want related text. Oops. Did we do that syntax correct? No. Action primary. And we want the background color to be the same dark purple, but we want the text to be white. Did I skip that up there? No, I did that. So let's take a quick look. Save, save. We do. We have the color pretty close. I think we need to do a little border radius on the outside of that, but we're fine. That's the little stuff that you're going to want to do on your own to try and get it looking exactly the way that you want. But you can see how easily we can make changes to those elements using CSS and making it uniform throughout the document. So what are we missing here? Missing a couple of buttons is what I'm missing. So they have 2 buttons down here, but by default there are no buttons in the Magezon Single Product Page builder. But I can add text. So I'm going to add a text block. And on that text block, we're just going to go ahead and add a couple of hrefs that the class is set to a CSS that we'll create here in just a second. Okay, so what I want to do inside of here is click the source code button. This will let you see the HTML behind it. If you're used to working with WordPress, you have the visual tab and the text tab, and you can see the HTML formatting there, like a paragraph and similar items. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to add a paragraph. We're going to, well, let me just go ahead and copy paste what I've already got done to make this a little faster. So we set the style to align to the left. What I mean by that is we want both of these buttons to be on the same line. If I don't put that there, then one button will be on one line, another button will be on another line. We're going to add a link, and the link currently goes to nothing. We can change that later, but currently just goes to nothing. We've assigned it to a button that we're just calling waffle button. The text on there is more from this range, and then we've got another one, same class, called more from this brand, because that's what they've got on here. Let's go ahead and we'll save that, and we're going to create that waffle button CSS. Now, this is nothing special. You can do a quick search on Google for CSS button generator, and you'll find 50 million links to tell you how to do that and give you the code for creating those buttons any way you like. I'd suggest that you go ahead and do that, but I've gone ahead and done that already, and I'm going to just simply paste that text into here. So what I have is an element called waffle button, and we're setting the background color on those on the regular one to that dark color. We're setting the color of the text to white. We're setting the font size and font family, and then whenever you hover, we're changing the background color to black. We're making sure that there's no line underneath the link that's inside of it. And I'm going to save that, save this, and we'll do a refresh. And if we scroll down here, we've got our 2 new fancy buttons. Those colors on the links I don't like. You can change that using CSS, but I'm going to leave that there for now. So from what I can tell, we've pretty much covered just about everything on how to recreate this document. Does not look exactly the same, obviously, but with what really amounted to no more than 15-30 minutes worth of work, we're able to come up with a pretty convincing copy of what they've got there, make a nice little product page. And if we refresh this, we can see that it has that. Now on the back end, when we go into the product, we're going to assign that profile to this product. So we're going to go to the square waffle maker. I'm going to scroll down here to product page builder profile, and I'm going to set that to the kitchen appliance that I just created, and I'm going to save that. And now if I come over here and I go to my home page and I search for waffle, and I see that waffle iron, it has that profile. If I assign that to another product in here, like let's just say the round waffle maker. Where are we? There it is. If I go back to my search results, I now have that same thing. I don't have all the information filled out there, but you can see that the overall format is the same. So you could have hundreds of products or thousands that are all using this same profile, or you could have a few different product profiles. Not everything's a kitchen appliance. Some things may need a slightly different design, or some things may need a much more brief design. But you can easily create multiple product profiles and assign them to all of the products in your system using the Magezon product page builder. If you had created all of that and you wanted to either make a backup copy of that or you want to go ahead and give that to somebody else, say you're a developer creating this for somebody who has this extension on their system, you could go into your product profile page. Up at the top, you'll see the little button that says shortcode. If you take that and you copy all of that, you can then paste it into something like a page out on GitHub, and somebody can go grab that from there, and they can then paste it into a new profile. Let's go ahead and do that over here. We're going to add a new profile. We're going to call this imported kitchen. We're going to go ahead and we're going to say it's full width, and I'm going to click that, and I'm going to paste. Oops. Come back over here. Let me just save this here. I'll just go ahead and I'll just use this. So this is an export from a earlier version of the page that I worked on. So I exported it that same way by clicking this, copying the text and pasting it in there. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to paste. Well, let me make sure I did that right. Paste that in there, and then you'll need the CSS as well. So I'm going to take that CSS, select all of it, paste that in there, save that, and if I say preview, and this is on that square waffle maker, you see we've essentially got exactly what we were looking for. And that GitHub page is right there, github.com/bwellsdev/Magezon. And there's a link to their blog as well. Their blog has a lot of interesting updates and how-tos for their products. Okay, well, I think that we are basically done here. I think we've covered everything. I'm going to post this video here within the next couple of days. If you have any questions, just post them at the bottom of the video, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks a lot.